introduction to primal leadership. So what is primal leadership? Primal leadership is the emperor's leadership. It is a leadership that governs by leveraging the primal desires of self-interest, applying simple motivations such as fear and greed to generate action. While conventionally regarded with some disdain, this form of leadership has nonetheless persisted due to its effectiveness. Whereas other forms of leadership preserve their influence by loftier human motivations, primal leadership speaks to the basest of human motivations, and it does so in extremely direct ways. Because of this approach, primal leadership has grown to become one of the most dominant forms of leadership worldwide. This is evidenced by the influence of capitalism. Capitalism, at its heart, is a manifestation of primal leadership, with competitors vying against one another to purchase the services of the most qualified individuals. For those hired, tangible evidence of the primal influence can be detected in the preference for higher wages. That said, wealth alone is not the only tool primal leadership can apply to motivate. Fear also is a crucial element of primal leadership, whether that be fear associated with physical intimidation, threats, risk of embarrassment, monetary penalties, or even change. All are tools to the primal leader, leveraging not the fear itself, but rather the desire to evade negative consequences to leverage control. In this way, primal leadership exerts its influence in a very simple but effective fashion, controlling individuals by leveraging their desires. To understand primal leadership completely, there are a number of subjects worthwhile for discussion. In this introduction, only the principles of leveraging desire will be addressed. All men have wants and needs, but none want the same and none want equally. Primal leadership requires not only that those it governs have desires, but also, more importantly, that such desires can be identified and effectively leveraged to generate action. Therefore, the first challenge for the primal leader is to understand the mechanisms by which these desires can be leveraged to motivate. They are as follows. Incentives. Regarding positive incentives, such as bonuses, title changes, visible congratulations, and words of praise, what must be kept in mind are three core elements. Number 1. The desire to obtain. First and foremost, it is important that individuals possess some strong desire for what is being offered. It seems obvious to most that material wealth and luxury should motivate action, but such means are not always available, and even then, they're not always effective. For example, consider a monk who has taken vows of poverty. Were an individual to offer such a man a boat cruise as an incentive, it would be unlikely to motivate action. Similarly, companies dole out pens and plaques to their employees. For some who value such recognitions, these rewards play to their vanity, but for others, these rewards prove meaningless. A primal leader must understand what it is that his people want, what it is that they find significant, and use that to leverage action. Number 2. The belief that they can obtain. Next, most importantly, individuals must believe that they can obtain the positive incentive for it to motivate action. If subjects believe that the criteria by which rewards are set are unobtainable or unrealistic, no further reactivity will be generated. This is true regardless of the size of the incentive. Consider rewards for finding a cure for cancer. In many instances, money has been raised in the millions of dollars for finding the cure to one or many different forms of cancer. How then does this factor into the motivations that drive scientists and researchers daily to perform the studies necessary for breakthroughs? The answer, for the most part, is that it does not. Certainly the researchers and scientists perform their duties for other motivating factors, including guaranteed paychecks as well as the more philanthropic motivation of contributing to the research as a whole. But how many work with it in mind that they will obtain that money? Certainly it is possible and even probable that one of them will find the cure for cancer one day, but how likely is it to be that person? Given this, it is unlikely that a scientist or researcher would be so confident in his abilities that the reward would create any real uptick in his productivity from day to day or even week to week. Number 3. The confidence in reward. Lastly, individuals compelled through positive incentives must have confidence in rewards. A leader can promise many things, but if he never delivers upon his promised incentives, his word will lose credibility. Similarly, if a primal leader is not known for offering praise or rewards to individuals who outperform expectations, he will prove ineffective in reinforcing productivity in those beneath him. Again, it is the confidence in the reward and not the reward itself that matters. Rewards are given after the fact, after the desired action has taken place, and so it is crucial that during the act, the individual has confidence that rewards will be applied for a successful effort. Disincentives. Similar to positive incentives, which would leverage the desire to obtain against the promise of a reward for action, negative disincentives exploit a desire to evade or escape punishment. So positive incentives and negative disincentives work along very similar lines. As with positive incentives, there are 3 core components to effectively applying disincentives. Number 1, the desire to evade. In the very simplest of ways, disincentives must cater to the fears of those being compelled to action. An individual who does not fear the disincentive cannot be motivated by it. For instance, consider the loss of $10,000. For an average individual, this would be a meaningful disincentive, but for a billionaire, it may be meaningless. Therefore, it will have no impact and will produce no reactivity from that individual. The same is true of individuals who do not fear shame or public humiliation. It is difficult to mock the class clown who is comfortable living on the edge of ridicule. He has little vanity, and words glide off him easily. For this reason, a primal leader must always be mindful of what is actually feared by those he governs. Number 2, the belief that they can evade. As with positive incentives, a crucial element for a primal leader is to set a task that is achievable, or, at the very least, is perceived as being achievable. Faltering on this point will make those governed perceive consequences as inevitable, and inevitable consequences cannot motivate. As an example, consider a man on death row. Such a man is dangerous because when he believes he cannot avoid his punishment, he has nothing to lose. The more confident he feels in the certainty of his death, the less controllable he then becomes. Alternatively, if he believed that the possibility existed to evade death, and that good behavior increased that possibility, it would be that much easier to control him. Number 3, confidence in repercussion. The final cornerstone to disincentives is confidence in repercussions. A leader can threaten anything, but if he's not known for following through with these threats, he will lose effectiveness. Likewise, if a primal leader is not known for executing punishments against those who deviate from his agenda, he will also prove ineffective, as individuals will not anticipate repercussions to their actions. Again, it is the confidence in the repercussion, and not the repercussions themselves, that matters and generates action. During the act of punishment, a leader does not produce a meaningful desire in anyone. The act of punishment is actually an act to generate further confidence in future consequences, so that in anticipation of that punishment, individuals will work to evade it. Society's perception of primal leadership. Society regards primal leadership as a callous and cruel form of leadership, intended to serve cold individuals who do not care for their people. This, in large part, is supported by numerous works released in recent years that espouse the virtues of more sentimental forms of leadership. Through these efforts, in the modern era, primal leadership has come to be described as a bad form of leadership. This is a misconception that could not be further from the truth. Although limited in application, primal leadership persists in society, not because it is bad or cruel, but because it is effective and has consistently yielded results throughout history. So to describe it as bad and therefore ineffective is inaccurate. Undoubtedly, primal leadership has its drawbacks, and it most definitely can be applied incorrectly to the detriment of an organization. Although that is not to say that primal leadership is not potent or useful. For all too many individuals, it is the fallback form of leadership, relied on when methods that are more sentimental fail. In this way, primal leadership is the foundation of many leadership styles, and therefore should never be discounted. I'm Thomas Campbell, and this has been a short excerpt from the 6 fundamental forms of leadership. If you enjoyed it, please remember to click the like button. That goes a long way to help support and promote the channel. Also, if you've liked learning about leadership and want to stay updated as I continue to release advanced content, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Lastly, if you want to find the complete work, head over to kingscrownsandempires.com or search for the 6 fundamental forms of leadership on Amazon to find both digital and hardback copies. Now I want to turn it over to you. Where have you seen primal leadership? Is it as bad as they all say, or does it get a bad rap? Share your thoughts and leave a comment letting me know.